Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Aaron Smith. I was thinking about a time many years ago when I visited the coast. I don't live near the coast, so it was amazing for me to get to see things that I had never seen before. There were boats and people fishing in the ocean, and I even got to see a lighthouse. Since then, I have seen many photos of the coast, but I thought I would make a picture of my own today. Let me show you how you can do that too. This is going to be a sketch of an outside scene. And the first thing I want to do is to think about where my horizon line is. So this time I think I will make that horizon line maybe 2/3 down the page or so. You can make that horizon line wherever you want it, but I establish where that line is because everything in this sketch will be based on it. I want my drawing to have things up close, things in the middle, and things in the background. To do that, and to keep this drawing looking realistic, I need to decide where that line is so that I can place everything around it. Something that seems important to mention about this sketch is that it is only meant to be a sketch. I'm thinking on paper as I draw this. I could go back in after I make this sketch and make it far more detailed and make it a nice, finished drawing, but that really isn't my goal here. I want to make a sketch and not have to worry about things like straight lines or perfect circles or anything like that. Let's just have some fun and quickly sketch a scene. I'm imagining a scene with several important elements to it. You get to decide how detailed you want those things to be. I'm going to make as much detail as I have time for today, and depending on how the sketch looks to me, I might go back in later or tomorrow or some other time, maybe next week even, and refine my lines, add some details, work on shadows, work on highlights, and make it a much more finished drawing. For now, though, let's just sketch and be loose and free, and let's have some fun. I'm just figuring out where stuff should be placed on this drawing. I've got a boat, and right up close on the right side, I've made a post that's going to have some ropes on it. My boat that's over here, I'm not completely sure what this boat is supposed to look like, but I'm just making some sketch lines on here to think on paper and figure it out. I think my water down here needs to have some waves on it. I'm going to go over that several times more, though, and make that a lot better. I'm just, for the moment, figuring out where everything needs to be. I think that my boat is near the shore as it's traveling across the water, and so I'm going to draw that shore and figure out what's up here. I'm going to make a few buildings, maybe they're houses. I'm not sure what they are. It doesn't really matter. I'm just sketching away and having fun as I do it. And they're going to be on the side of the kind of a little cliff, I think, is what I want to do with that. Let's make a lighthouse up here. Now, as I do this, you can see that I'm just very quickly throwing down some lines. They're not very straight. I'm not measuring them. I'm just kind of eyeballing it and just drawing whatever feels right to me. As you can see, that lighthouse is extremely crooked, and I'm not too worried about it, though, because I'm going to go back in just a little while and show you how you can fix that up and make it look better. Establishing the shoreline here. Far in the background, though, I think I want to make a series of buildings that are way back in the background. I'm not sure what those look like either. I'm just kind of doodling some buildings, and I'll show you how we're going to make them look like they're far in the background coming up as we go. As I'm drawing this, I'm imagining that there might be some land just underneath the frame of the picture. I'm thinking that there's grass and maybe a sidewalk. Somewhere along the sidewalk is a bench, and I'm sitting on that bench with my sketchbook and drawing boats as they go out to sea. Or maybe they're coming in from sea and they've already been out there. I think I'll add some shade to the sky and some clouds as we go. So maybe it is the end of the day and the boats are just coming in for the night. Or maybe they've been out fishing and they're returning to shore. Or you might imagine that it is early in the morning and they are just now headed out to sea to begin their day. The nice thing is you get to decide that. Make up your own stories. Let your mind wander. Do whatever you think the story should be. Hey, maybe there are explorers on this boat and they're going to go out diving. And when they do, maybe they find a Spanish ship that has sunk a few hundred years ago, and they find tons and tons of gold, of sunken treasure. Can you imagine what it would be like to find a thing like that? I like to imagine those kinds of things as I'm drawing here. Make up my own stories. Like I said, you're thinking on paper and just letting your mind go and being creative. As we go here, I'm adding some more detail to what I've already done before. I'm using the lines that I put down as a guide for where to draw everything else. So as I'm drawing this house right now, I think I want to maybe make a couple of windows. Notice that they are not square. They're not very good windows. I just very quickly scribbled them in. But again, I'm not very concerned about that because I'll go back later and straighten those up and make them look a bit better. I'm, for the moment, just still trying to find where everything is and adding a bit of detail as we go and making it look better. Some of these buildings probably should be far in the background, and some of the stuff right here on the shore should look a little bit closer to us, so it'll have some more detail to it. Some of the stuff that I'm doing, like right now, is nothing more than just making some scribble marks and shade. I'm not sure what that is, but as we go, I'll work out what it is, and then we'll all know. Sketching gives us great opportunity to let our minds go wherever we want. I think a lot of people have forgotten what a beautiful world we really do live in. All you have to do is turn on the news for a few minutes and you'll quickly see people who are angry and stressed out and people divided against each other, like we haven't seen for many, many years. People have forgotten that life is so beautiful and just so precious. I think in the grand scheme of things, we only have a short time to be here, and some folks choose to spend that short time being angry. I know people like that. I know people who don't seem to be able to get through their day unless they're upset about something or other. Unfortunately, we sometimes have no choice but to be around people who think that way. Maybe they are with us at work or at school or whatever we do, and you're just around people that think that way. Maybe they're even some of your family. Sketching gives us the opportunity, though, to remember what's beautiful about the world. If you look around and really give it some thought, there's far more beauty in the world, and there are far more good people than there are misguided people. Sketching allows us to escape the ugly things of the world and create a world of our own. I've said this before, but the artist Norman Rockwell made some magnificent paintings of how America ought to be. Not necessarily how America was or is, but how it ought to be. And many, many people love to look at his paintings because they celebrate the simple things in life. I regularly sketch to escape the real world myself. The worlds I sketch remind me of how fortunate I really am. Let's see, as we go across with my skyline in the background, some of the lines that I'm making are kind of tightening up the lines that I put down in the first place and making them a bit straighter and more defined. I do that a lot. I'll go through and make a drawing where I just lay down some lines of where I would like for things to be, and then I go back in and clean it up a lot and revise it and just keep working it. If you continue to work it and work it, uh, you can really make some good things. A lot of people, unfortunately, when they're drawing, will put down their initial lines of the drawing and then they give up. They say, "Oh, this is not looking like I would like for it to look," and they'll just give up and they might make another sketch, or they'll just be frustrated and not want to draw anymore. And sketching is not a thing that should frustrate you. It's something that you should love, and I love it, and I just keep with it. And you know what? If it doesn't turn out at the end to be very good, I just uh, move on to the next one. I don't let that frustrate me. Okay, let's see what we're doing here. This boat, I think, needs some work. I'm not sure how this boat should look. I think I'll go back to that here in a few minutes. I'll let it rest for a couple of minutes and then I'll get back to it later. I'm going to throw some details down on this big post that's here in our foreground. Since this post is in our foreground, what I would like to do is make more detail on it than there is anywhere else in the drawing. It's the closest thing to us. If you were taking a photo of a place like this post would be the closest thing to you as you're looking at the photo. And of course, I'm not using any kind of a photo. I'm just making this up as I go. So this is the rope that goes around the post, and I will revise that as we go and fix it up a little bit. Coming up here in just a while. I think around the bottom of this boat, we need to have water moving as if the boat's moving through the water, and we'll revise that and continue working it as we go too. As you notice here on the side of the boat, I can't draw a straight line. I never claimed to be able to draw a straight line. All I'm doing is kind of scribbling, and it's okay. I'm just making a sketch here. And if I was making some kind of a technical drawing or trying to do a finished illustration, I'd probably get out a ruler and try and make some of these lines look straight, or get out circle templates and make my circles look like circles. But that's not what I want to do. I'm having a lot more fun just letting myself go and being free with this. And as I mentioned, when you continue to work your drawing, you really can make a big difference in your lines. I mean, like I said, I don't draw straight lines very well, but if you continue working your drawing, it doesn't matter very much. They're already, as I continue to go here, you can see they're already looking better than they were before. Now, this pole that I'm working on in the background is very straight lines that go up, and I'm just freehanding that, and the top of the boat here should be a straight line, but I'm just also freehanding that because I'm having fun and I'm just working it and revising as I go. And that's the way to make it better, is just keep at it and don't give up. Continue drawing, continue having fun, and don't be concerned if it doesn't turn out exactly like you wanted it. It's really okay. You can do another drawing later. You don't have to show this one to anybody if you don't want to, or you can show it to everybody if you want to. Now, this is the life preserver that I'm adding to the front of the boat. That would normally be a couple of perfect circles in there. I can't draw circles any better than I can draw straight lines, so I just kind of fake it. See how I've just sort of faked it there? I have a couple of lines that are going from the pole down to the boat. Those aren't very straight either, but it doesn't make any difference. It's still going to look okay. Far back in my background here, I'm just going to add some shade to these buildings. Now, I'm not going to make those very detailed. They're going to continue to not have a lot of detail at all. That's exactly what I want with those, because I want them to look like they're far back in the background. The things that are going to be detailed are right up close to us, like the post in the foreground. That's going to have more detail than anything. The boat here in the middle will have some details, but not quite as much as the post in the foreground, but certainly more than those buildings in the background. That's kind of how you create the illusion of depth in your drawings. That's what I like to show, a lot of depth in what I'm doing. I like it to look like things are way off in the distance and some things are way up close to us. So I'll just continue putting down a bit of shade here on my background. On top of these buildings, some of the roofs. Yeah. This is starting to look pretty good. I'm working those fuzzy lines that I put down before and making that more of a shadow, as if a part of the boat kind of overhangs the edge, and so there should be shadow there. Making more shadow inside of these doors and windows up on my boat. This got a pole up here. Again, that's a straight line, but I'm not going to be too bothered with that. I just very quickly put that down. This is my woodless graphite pencil. And when I put this on the side this way and just kind of scribble, look what happens. I can create a really nice shade, and I can do it very, very quickly. So what I want to do here is just kind of scribble out a shade with this pencil. It's called woodless graphite. The entire pencil is graphite, and it's really quite amazing. I never imagined that I would like a pencil like this so much until I began using it. Now I just love this pencil, and I draw with it all the time. But what I'm doing with it in this drawing is I'm going to just lay down some big shaded areas. My sky has some big shaded areas, and this is the water down below that I want to make a big shaded area, but I'm going to rework that a couple of times and show you how we can make that look like water. But the first thing that I want to do is take my woodless graphite and go over the entire thing, and then I'm going to show you kind of a little bit of magic here that you can do. I just have a napkin that I got out of my kitchen, and I wrap it around my finger and make a point like that. And as I make some circular motions over this tone that I just laid down with my woodless graphite pencil, it blends it out in a pretty amazing way. And you can see that there are still pencil marks in what I've blended, but that's okay. This is a sketch, and so there should be pencil marks. It gives us some texture, and so I'm happy about that. But as you can see, we now have lighter parts of the sky and darker parts of the sky. I kept away from the lighthouse so that it's kind of highlighted. It looks like it's surrounded by light as I don't get too close. Here's what that looks like on the napkin. So what I did now is I just find a clean piece of the napkin, wrap it around my finger again, and do the water. And I'm getting up close to the things I've already drawn, the ropes and the post and the boat and the shoreline. I get up close to them. Actually, you know what? These places where there's some darker areas up on my shoreline and these buildings in the background, I'm going to go ahead and blend them just a little bit too. I think that'll help with the illusion, and I'm going to continue to put down more pencil on top of this stuff. So blending it out just a bit and giving it kind of a fuzzy quality, I think is very helpful. Now I'm back to the same woodless graphite pencil, and as I draw here in the water, notice I'm only drawing certain areas. I'm keeping my lines, for the most part, horizontal, not any vertical lines, just horizontal, and I'm making some scribble marks across the water, but there's a lot of areas where I'm not drawing on it at all. And just doing this very rough, very loose and sketchy. I'm not taking very much time to do this at all. I'm just laying it down quickly because I'm going to change it a couple more times. Actually, not change it a couple of times, but as I refine it, it's going to get better and better. And I'll show you what I mean here. Now, this is my kneaded eraser. Kneaded as in K-N-E-A-D. Here's the package that it comes in. I have one that's not even opened out of the package yet. But this is what it looks like when you take it out. You can squish that thing and make it into a point, which is what I've done here. I've made the edge of it be kind of a chiseled edge as I squeeze it together. And as I go back into the pencil that I've drawn, I'm just lifting up some of that pencil. And really what that's doing is it's literally drawing highlights in my water. So I've drawn some highlights in that water just by using my kneaded eraser. And so I've made some highlights in the water. The water now has some dark shadows and some nice highlights. Again, I'm going to get my woodless graphite, and I'm going to do some more detail. Now that I've done the water, I want to go back over this piece that's way out in our foreground, and I want to begin to put some good detail into that. Let me tell you a quick story. Several years ago, I sponsored a couple of little girls to go to school in Guatemala. It was through an organization that promised several things for my sponsorship, things like shoes and a school uniform and a backpack and school supplies, that kind of thing. So I sponsored these 3 little girls for a while, and finally I wanted to find out if the money I was sending was really going to where the organization said it was going. So I went to the towns in Guatemala myself. I traveled there. I went to where these little girls live, and I went all by myself too. The little towns where these little girls lived were mostly made up of indigenous Mayan people. Many, many years ago, a huge volcano erupted in Guatemala, and the crater that was left from that eruption filled in with water, and it became Lago de Atitlan, which is Lake Atitlan in English. Surrounding this lake were little villages of indigenous Maya people who kept most of their original ancient culture and customs and even their language. And so this is who I visited all by myself. I really stood out like a sore thumb with these people because nobody around where I went looked like me at all. And there's this one little village way up in the mountains that I visited. That is where one of the little girls that I was sponsoring lived, that I clearly looked like I didn't belong there. This is a place where tourists don't go ever, so it was unusual to see somebody that looks like me up there. These people didn't speak a word of English, and many of them don't even speak Spanish. They spoke an indigenous language that sounds nothing like either English or Spanish. So I couldn't talk to them because we were from completely different cultures and spoke different languages. But I went to a little schoolyard where there were quite a few children playing. And I sat down and I watched them play for a short time. And then I reached into my backpack and pulled out my sketchbook. I began sketching a few of these kids as they played, and it didn't take long for the other kids to notice that. Soon I was totally surrounded by children who wanted to see what I was doing. I drew a little cartoon of a turtle, and I took the page out of my sketchbook and I gave it to one of the kids. I gave it to a boy that had been one of the first ones to come over and watch me drawing. Well, pretty soon after that, they all wanted a sketch. So I made a bunch of little sketches and of all kinds of different things, and I handed them out to these little kids. And I believe I made 30 friends that day. 30 friends that I may never see again, and who I couldn't even talk to. The only real communication I could have with them was making these sketches. It absolutely fascinated them. They wanted to watch me doing that. They weren't even great sketches. They were just super simple things. Sketching built a bridge from them to me. I made friends with them without saying a single word. You know, if I live to be 1,000 years old, I will never forget that. Sketching is magic. Sketching is pure magic. All right, as I'm adding more details to my post here and working everything back and forth and revising, I'll remind you again that this is only a sketch. It's not meant to be a finished drawing, but this is pretty close to where I'm going to stop on this sketch. I could continue on with this and draw many more things, but I'll call it finished for now. I'm going to put it back in my sketchbook and look at it again later. And when I do, I will see it in a different way. I may continue working on it, or I may just leave it as it is and begin another sketch. So we're just about to call it a day on this one. Just a few more shadows, and there we are. There are so many ways that you could draw a scene like this. Let your imagination go. What if you were in the top of the lighthouse? How would the scene look from that perspective? What if you were in the boat? What would you be able to see from there? You get to decide. This is your drawing, and there is no limit to how creative you can be. Just make sketches because you love to draw. That's why I do it. See you soon.